The video was grainy, shot on a cell phone from 30 feet away, but the sound was unmistakable. The crack of palm against cheek echoed through Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. On the screen, a young woman in designer clothes stood over a man in a wheelchair. The man's cap, a Marine Corps cap, worn and faded, fell to the pavement. She kicked it. "Pathetic," her voice said on the recording. "People like you shouldn't even be out in public." The man in the wheelchair didn't respond. He just sat there, hand pressed to his cheek, watching his cap roll into a puddle. Judge Caprio pressed pause. The courtroom was silent. 10:30 a.m., November 8, 2019, Providence Municipal Court, Case 2019 CR 4521. A police chief's daughter just called a decorated Marine pathetic. She had no idea what was coming. "Miss Holloway," Judge Caprio said quietly, "is that you in this video?" Brittany Holloway, 24 years old, daughter of Providence Police Chief Robert Holloway, lifted her chin. "He grabbed me first. I was defending myself. We'll get to that. But first, do you know who this man is? The man you struck?" "Some homeless-looking guy who was blocking my parking spot." In the front row of the gallery, a man sat in a wheelchair. His legs ended at the knees. His hands, calloused working hands, rested on the wheels. He wore a simple flannel shirt, clean jeans, and a jacket covered in patches. Military patches, unit insignias, a Purple Heart pin. Beside him, a yellow Labrador in a service vest sat perfectly still. The dog's name stitched on the vest was Sergeant. The man's name was William Crawford, Billy to his friends. Sergeant First Class Crawford to the Marines he'd served with in Afghanistan. He hadn't looked at Brittany once. His eyes were fixed somewhere past the courtroom windows, on the gray November sky, on something no one else could see. On the bench beside Billy sat a bouquet of flowers. Pink roses wilted now. They'd been in his car that day. They'd never made it to their destination. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, because what unfolds in this Providence courtroom will stay with you. In the back corner of the gallery, far from the family section, Police Chief Robert Holloway sat alone. He hadn't announced himself. He hadn't worn his uniform, just a gray suit, head bowed low. He'd arrived 30 minutes early. He hadn't sat with the court officers who recognized him. He'd chosen to be invisible. Mrs. Patricia Sullivan, the court clerk, opened the case file. Case number 2019 CR 45291, the State of Rhode Island versus Brittany Michelle Holloway. Charges include simple assault, harassment, disorderly conduct, and violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act for harassment of a disabled person. Brittany's lawyer, Charles Whitmore, stood immediately. "Your Honor, my client maintains she acted in self-defense." Mr. Crawford grabbed her wrist, and she responded instinctively. "We request all charges be dismissed." "We'll hear the evidence first, Mr. Whitmore." "Of course, Your Honor, but I'd like the court to note my client has no prior criminal record, comes from an upstanding family, and I'm aware of who her father is, Mr. Whitmore. It won't affect my judgment." Brittany leaned toward her lawyer and whispered, loudly enough for the first row to hear, "This is ridiculous. Daddy said this would be handled." Case file note. Attached statement from Police Chief Robert Holloway. "I am requesting that my daughter receive no special consideration. She must face the same justice as any citizen. I will not intervene. Ear Holloway, badge, George June, Ed 1. In the back corner, Chief Holloway's jaw tightened. His daughter didn't know he was there. She didn't know about the letter. She thought he was making calls, pulling strings, making this disappear like he always did. She was wrong. "Miss Holloway," Judge Caprio said, "please tell the court your version of events." Brittany straightened, confident, rehearsed. "I was driving to brunch with friends. I was running late. I saw an open handicap spot near the restaurant." "Do you have a handicap permit?" "No, but I was only going to be there for an hour. The spot wasn't really being used. This man was just sitting there in his wheelchair blocking the space." "He was parked in the space, Miss Holloway. Legally. He has handicap plates." "Well, I didn't know that. I asked him politely to move, and he became hostile." "Define hostile." "He raised his hand at me. I thought he was going to hit me, so I defended myself." "You struck him across the face." "I pushed him away. It was self-defense." Billy Crawford in the front row closed his eyes. His dog, Sergeant, pressed closer to the wheelchair. 10:42 a.m., and then she said the word that made the veteran flinch. Miss Holloway, you said the spot wasn't being used. The man was in a wheelchair, in a handicapped spot, loading something into his car. I didn't see him loading anything. You didn't see the flowers? Brittany hesitated. What flowers? Evidence inventory, item number 7. 1 bouquet of pink roses, recovered from ground beside victim's vehicle. Petals scattered across pavement. Note from responding officer. Victim stated flowers were for his daughter's grave. He visits every Saturday. The court calls Marcus Chen. A man in his 40s approached the stand. Software engineer. Calm, methodical. Mr. Chen, you witnessed the incident? I did, Your Honor. I was parked 2 spaces away, answering emails in my car. I saw the whole thing. Please describe what you observed. The gentleman in the wheelchair, Mr. Crawford, was loading flowers into his car. Pink roses. He was taking his time because, well, he doesn't have legs below the knees. It takes longer. Then a white BMW pulled up behind him and started honking. The driver, the defendant, got out and started yelling at him to move. What did she say? She said, "Move your chair. I need this spot." When he tried to explain he was almost done, she called him a... Marcus paused. She called him a cripple. The gallery murmured. Deputy Thomas McKenna, standing near the wall, curled his hand into a fist. His son was deployed in Afghanistan right now. What happened next? He didn't respond to the insult. He just tried to wheel himself toward the driver's side of his car, to leave. But she grabbed his wheelchair, grabbed the handle, and yanked it backward. He raised his arm. Not to hit her, to catch his balance. That's when she slapped him. Witness statement, Marcus Chen. I've never seen anything like it. This man didn't say a single hostile word. He tried to leave. She wouldn't let him. Then she hit him and called him pathetic. I'm still angry thinking about it. Brittany was pale now. He's lying. That's not what happened. We have the video, Miss Holloway. Would you like us to play it again? She didn't answer. Ada Jennifer Walsh approached the bench. Your Honor, I'd like to play the full video evidence. 43 seconds. Proceed. The courtroom screen flickered to life. The video was shaky but clear enough. Billy Crawford in his wheelchair, one hand on the wheels trying to move away. Brittany blocking his path. Her voice. Where do you think you're going? I'm talking to you. Billy's voice, quiet, tired. Ma'am, I'm just trying to leave. Please. Don't ma'am me. People like you think you can just take up space wherever you want. I'm parked here legally. I have plates. I don't care about your plates. I care that you're in my way. She grabbed the wheelchair handle. He raised his hand, clearly defensive, clearly off balance. She slapped him, hard. His head snapped to the side. His cap fell. She kicked it. Pathetic. Then she walked back to her BMW, checked her reflection in the window, and drove away. Billy Crawford sat there for almost a minute, not moving. Then slowly, he wheeled himself to his cap. He picked it up. He held it to his chest. The video ended. Evidence photo number 4, Marine Corps cap on wet pavement. Visible tire marks where defendant kicked it away. Witness confirms defendant said pathetic while kicking. 10:58 a.m. The video ended. No one in the courtroom moved. In the back row, Chief Holloway's head dropped into his hands. His shoulders shook. The man who had commanded a police force for 12 years was crying silently. Judge Caprio turned to Brittany. Self-defense, Miss Holloway? She had no answer. Before we continue, Judge Caprio said, I think the court needs to understand who Mr. Crawford is. He opened a folder. William James Crawford, born 1978, Providence, Rhode Island. Enlisted in the United States Marine Corps at age 18. Served 2 tours in Afghanistan, 2008 to 2009, and 2010 to 2011. On March 14, 2011, Sergeant First Class Crawford's convoy was struck by an IED outside Kandahar. The explosion killed 2 of his fellow Marines. Crawford survived, but lost both legs below the knee. Military citation, Bronze Star with Valor. Despite catastrophic injuries, including traumatic amputation of both lower limbs, SFC Crawford maintained fire discipline and provided suppressive cover for 11 minutes, enabling evacuation of 3 wounded personnel. His actions reflect the highest traditions of the Marine Corps. He was awarded the Purple Heart for his wounds. He was also awarded the Bronze Star with Valor for his actions that day. After losing his legs, he provided cover fire that allowed 3 wounded Marines to be evacuated. He saved their lives while bleeding out in the dirt. The courtroom was completely silent. After his medical discharge, Mr. Crawford returned to Providence. He works part-time at Henderson's Hardware on Federal Hill. He volunteers at the VA hospital, teaching woodworking to other disabled veterans. By all accounts, he's a quiet, dignified man who asks nothing from anyone. And on October 26th, he was slapped across the face in a parking lot by a young woman who called him a cripple and pathetic. Brittany was staring at Billy now, really looking at him for the first time. The patches on his jacket, the Purple Heart pin, the Bronze Star, the empty space below his knees. I didn't know. Would it have mattered, Miss Holloway? Would you have treated him differently if you'd known he was a war hero? Or would you have still seen just a man in a wheelchair, in your way, taking up a parking spot you wanted? She had no answer. If you've ever watched someone face the truth about themselves, hit that like button. Mr. Crawford, Judge Caprio said gently, would you like to address the court? For the first time, Billy looked up. Yes, Your Honor, I would. Billy Crawford wheeled himself to the front of the courtroom. Sergeant walked beside him, tail low, pressed close to the wheelchair. He positioned himself facing Judge Caprio. Not Brittany, just the judge. Mr. Crawford, can you tell us why you were in that parking lot? Billy was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was steady but soft. I was visiting my daughter, Your Honor. Your daughter? Emma Rose Crawford. She's buried at St. Michael's Cemetery. The parking lot, the one where this happened, it's right next to the cemetery entrance. The gallery shifted. Someone inhaled sharply. I visit her every Saturday, have for 7 years. I bring her flowers, pink roses. They were her favorite. 11:12 a.m. The cemetery was visible from the courtroom windows if you knew where to look. Billy kept glancing toward it. He hadn't been able to go last Saturday either. Can you tell us about Emma? Billy's hand tightened on the wheel of his chair. She was 6 when she died. Leukemia. I was deployed when she got really sick. I tried to get home. The Red Cross, my CO, everyone tried to get me back, but it happened fast. I was in a helicopter over Kandahar when she passed. I never made it home in time. I never got to say goodbye. Emma Rose Crawford, born April 3, 2005, died February 18, 2011, age 5 years, 10 months, buried St. Michael's Cemetery, Providence. Headstone reads, Daddy's little rose, always blooming in heaven. My wife couldn't handle it. The grief, my injuries, all of it together. She left 2 years after I got back. I don't blame her. Some things are too heavy to carry together. So now it's just me and Sergeant. And every Saturday I bring Emma her flowers. I sit with her. I tell her about my week. I tell her I'm sorry I wasn't there. He paused. That day, October 26th, I was loading the roses into my car. I was going to drive around to the cemetery entrance. It's easier than wheeling across the grass. And then that woman started honking, screaming at me. She called me a cripple. She said people like me shouldn't be out in public. I didn't say anything back. What's the point? I just tried to leave. But she grabbed my chair. I lost my balance. I raised my hand to steady myself. And she hit me. His voice cracked, just slightly. My cap fell off. My Marine Corps cap. I've had it since boot camp. She kicked it into a puddle. VA medical report, patient William Crawford, assessment following assault, bruising to left cheek. Patient reports, significant increase in PTSD symptoms, nightmares returning, recommending additional counseling sessions. But that's not what hurt. What hurt is that I never made it to Emma that day. By the time the police came, by the time I gave my statement, visiting hours were over. The cemetery was closed. I missed my Saturday with my daughter because a woman wanted my parking spot. 11:24 a.m. Billy Crawford's service dog, Sergeant, put his head on Billy's lap. The dog had been trained to detect emotional distress. He was doing his job. Half the gallery was crying. Subscribe if you believe that real justice heals instead of destroys. A voice came from the back of the courtroom. Your Honor. May I address the court? Everyone turned. Robert Holloway stood slowly. Gray suit, no uniform, no badge visible. Brittany's face went white. Daddy? Daddy, tell them. Be quiet, Brittany. He walked forward. His steps were heavy, deliberate. He looked like a man carrying something enormous on his shoulders. Your Honor, I'm Robert Holloway, Chief of the Providence Police Department. I know who you are, Chief. I'm not here as the police chief. I'm here as a father who failed, and as a veteran who needs to apologize to a fellow veteran. He reached into his jacket and removed his badge. He set it on the clerk's desk. I don't want this to influence anything. I'm just a man today. 11:31 a.m. Chief Robert Holloway, 12 years commanding Providence PD, Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart recipient, set his badge on the clerk's desk. He faced the court not as a chief, but as a father, and he was ashamed. Mr. Crawford, I served 2 tours in Vietnam, 1969 to 1971, 101st Airborne. I know what it costs. I know what you gave. And my daughter called you a cripple. She struck you. She kicked your cap in the mud. A cap that means something. A cap you earned. I am sorry, not as a police chief, as one veteran to another, as a man to a man. I am deeply, profoundly sorry. Billy looked at him for a long moment. You served in Vietnam? Yes, sir. Then you know. I know. Welcome home, Chief. Nobody said it enough back then. Robert Holloway's composure shattered. Tears ran down his face. Thank you. Thank you. Chief Holloway's service record, U.S. Army, 101st Airborne Division, 1969-1971. 2 tours Vietnam. Purple Heart, Bronze Star, discharged with honors. Joined Providence PD, 1973. Rose through ranks. Appointed Chief 2007. Mr. Crawford, I failed my daughter. I protected her from every consequence her whole life. Every speeding ticket, every complaint, every time she acted like the rules didn't apply. I made it go away. I created this. He turned to Judge Caprio. I'm not asking for leniency, Your Honor. I'm asking for the opposite. She needs to understand what she did. I couldn't teach her. Maybe you can. Chief Robert Holloway, statement to court. I've spent 40 years serving this community, but I failed to raise a daughter who respects the people who served before me. That's on me. Don't go easy on her because of who I am. Go hard on her because of who she needs to become. Brittany was shaking. Daddy, why are you doing this? Why won't you help me? Because I've helped you too much, Brittany. That's why we're here. I didn't know he was a veteran. I didn't know about his daughter. How was I supposed to know? Judge Caprio's voice was quiet but firm. Miss Holloway, that's precisely the problem. You didn't know, and you didn't care. You saw a man in a wheelchair, and you decided he was less than you. His service didn't matter. His dignity didn't matter. His reason for being there didn't matter. Nothing mattered except that he was in your way. I'm not a bad person. I don't think you are. I think you're someone who was never taught that other people are real, that they have lives and losses and stories you know nothing about. You looked at William Crawford and saw an obstacle, a cripple, a homeless-looking guy. You didn't see a man who served his country, lost his legs, lost his daughter, and still gets up every day and tries to live with dignity. That's not evil, Miss Holloway. It's something almost worse. It's blindness. And blindness can be cured, but only if you want to see. Text message from Brittany to friend. Day of incident. Some homeless guy in a wheelchair ruined my morning. Had to put him in his place, LOL. Brittany looked at Billy Crawford. Really looked at him. The patches, the empty space where his legs should be. The dog pressed against his side. The flowers, the wilted pink roses, still sitting on the bench. Those flowers, she whispered. They were for his daughter. Yes. And I made him miss visiting her. Yes. Oh, God. Her voice broke. Oh, God, what did I do? She was crying now. Not performance tears, not manipulation. The ugly, gasping sobs of someone finally seeing themselves clearly. 11:42 a.m. Brittany Holloway looked at William Crawford, looked at the flowers, looked at the empty space where his legs used to be, and for the first time in her 24 years, she understood that she had truly hurt someone. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I didn't know, I didn't see, I'm sorry. Billy Crawford watched her cry. His face was unreadable. Mr. Crawford, Judge Caprio asked, would you like to respond? Billy was quiet for a long moment. Then he wheeled himself forward, closer to Brittany. Miss Holloway, look at me. She raised her tear-streaked face. I've been through things you can't imagine. I've watched friends die. I've felt my legs leave my body. I've buried my daughter. I've sat alone in a hospital room wondering why I survived when better men didn't. You know what I learned from all that? She shook her head. Anger is heavy, too heavy to carry. I put it down a long time ago because I had to. It was killing me. What you did, it hurt, not the slap. The slap was nothing. I've had worse. What hurt was being seen as less than human, being called pathetic by someone who's never sacrificed anything. But I'm not going to carry anger toward you. I don't have room. I've got too much else to carry. Billy Crawford, testimony. Emma always said, be nice, Daddy. Even when she was sick, even when she was scared. She'd hold my hand and say, be nice. I'm trying, baby, I'm still trying. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, because I need to, because Emma wouldn't want me to be angry. She was 6 years old and she had more grace than most adults I've ever met. But forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. And it's not the same as saying it was okay. It wasn't okay. What you did was wrong. You need to understand that, really understand it. So whatever Judge Caprio decides, I'll accept it. Not because I want revenge, because you need to learn something I hope you never forget. He wheeled back to his spot. Sergeant immediately pressed against him. Brittany was still crying, but something had shifted. The defensiveness was gone. In its place was something rawer, realer. Judge Caprio removed his glasses. I'm ready to deliver my sentence. Miss Holloway, please stand. Brittany stood. Her legs were unsteady. Her lawyer didn't bother making closing arguments. I've been on this bench for 40 years. In that time, I've given thousands of sentences. Fines, community service, jail time, the usual tools of justice. But this case isn't usual, and the usual tools aren't enough. I find you guilty of simple assault, harassment, and disorderly conduct. I'm dismissing the ADA charge, not because you didn't violate it, but because the other charges are sufficient. Here is my sentence. First, 18 months probation. Any violation, any arrest, any confrontation, any hint that you haven't learned, and you go directly to jail for 90 days. Second, a fine of $2,500. This money will be donated directly to the Rhode Island Disabled Veterans Fund. You will write the check yourself. You will see where it goes. Sentence record, case 2019 CR 45221. The sentence that legal scholars would debate for years. Not because it was harsh, because it was designed to create something courts rarely attempt, genuine transformation. Third, 300 hours of community service, not at a charity of your choosing. You will serve at the Providence VA Hospital in the physical rehabilitation ward. You will work with veterans who are learning to walk again, learning to live again, learning to be whole again. You will see men and women who lost limbs, lost eyes, lost parts of themselves defending this country. You will help them. You will learn from them. And you will never again look at a disabled veteran and see someone pathetic. Fourth, you will complete a 40-hour educational course on military service, veteran issues, and the sacrifices made by those who serve. You will pass a written examination. If you fail, you start over. Fifth, you will write a 5,000-word research paper on the challenges facing disabled veterans in America. This paper will be reviewed by Mr. William Crawford before submission. If he finds it insufficient, you will revise it until he accepts it. Sixth, and I want you to listen carefully, you will visit St. Michael's Cemetery with Mr. Crawford. Once. You will stand at his daughter Emma's grave. You will place flowers there, and you will understand what you interrupted. Brittany's breath caught. You will see where a father goes every Saturday to talk to the daughter he never got to say goodbye to. And you will understand that the man you called pathetic has more courage, more dignity, and more humanity in his little finger than you have shown in your entire life. Finally, you and your father will attend 6 sessions of family counseling together. You became this way for a reason. Your father needs to understand his role. You need to understand yours. Return to this court in 90 days with a written apology for Mr. Crawford. He has full discretion to accept or reject it. If he rejects it, you will write it again. Share this with a veteran you love. They need to see how Judge Caprio honors their service. 90 days later, Brittany Holloway returned to Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. She looked different. Not just her clothes, simpler now, flats instead of heels, but something in her face. The hardness was gone. The entitlement had softened into something more uncertain, more searching. Billy Crawford was there. So was Chief Holloway. And in the front row, a group of men in wheelchairs, veterans from the VA hospital, had come to watch. Miss Holloway, Judge Caprio said, I've received reports from the VA hospital. Tell me about your time there. The first week, I didn't want to be there. I thought I was being punished. I kept waiting for it to be over. What changed? I met a man named James, 23 years old, younger than me, IED in Iraq. He lost an arm and most of his vision, and he was trying to learn to tie his shoes again. I watched him try for an hour. He didn't give up. He didn't complain. He just kept trying. And I thought, I slapped a man like this. I called a man like this pathetic. I kicked his hat in the mud. I went to the bathroom and cried for 20 minutes. Progress report. Week 6. Miss Holloway has exceeded required hours. Requested additional training in physical therapy assistance. Staff notes she has developed genuine rapport with veteran patients. One patient, James Morrison, 23, states she has become like a sister. I wrote the paper. 5,000 words on what disabled veterans face when they come home. Mr. Crawford read it. She turned to Billy. He sent it back with notes, pages of notes, things I got wrong, things I didn't understand. I rewrote the whole thing. I learned more in that revision than in 4 years of college. And the cemetery, Brittany's voice trembled. We went last Saturday. Mr. Crawford drove. He showed me Emma's grave. He told me about her, how she loved Pink, how she laughed at everything, how she used to put her hands on his face when he was sad. He let me put the flowers down, pink roses. And I understood. I finally understood what I took from him that day. It wasn't a parking spot. It was time with his daughter. And you can't get that back. She was crying again, but these tears were different. I'm sorry, Mr. Crawford. I'm so sorry. Billy Crawford nodded slowly. I believe you. Miss Holloway, Judge Caprio said, do you have the letter? Yes, Your Honor. She pulled out a handwritten letter, pages of it. Not typed, not formal, handwritten. Mr. Crawford, she's required to offer this to you. You can accept or reject it. Billy wheeled forward. He took the letter. He didn't read it. Not there. Not in front of everyone. I'll read it at Emma's grave, next Saturday. I think she'd like to hear it. Brittany's face crumpled with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you. Chief Holloway stood. Your Honor, may I say something? Go ahead, Chief. My daughter and I have been in counseling. 6 sessions so far. We're going to keep going. I've learned things about myself I didn't want to see. I protected her because it was easier than parenting her. I made problems disappear because I had the power to. I raised a daughter who didn't know how to face consequences because I never let her. That ends now, for both of us. He turned to Billy. Mr. Crawford, I'd like to invite you to dinner. At our home, if you'd be willing. I want my daughter to see me treat you with the respect you deserve. Veteran to veteran. Billy considered this. I'll bring the burgers. You provide the grill. For the first time in the entire hearing, someone almost smiled. Final case note, 2019 CR 4521. Defendant completed all requirements. Community service hours, 347, 47 over minimum. Paper accepted on third revision. Cemetery visit completed November 2nd, 2019. Apology letter accepted by victim. Case closed with judicial commendation for genuine rehabilitation. Judge Caprio picked up his gavel. Miss Holloway, I'm closing this case. You've completed your sentence. More than completed it. But I want you to remember something. The man you slapped in a parking lot could have demanded jail time. He could have demanded maximum punishment. He had every right. Instead, he gave you grace. He forgave you before you deserved it. That's what a hero looks like. Not the medals, not the citations. The character. Don't waste what he gave you. I won't, Your Honor. I promise. The gavel fell. And in a Providence courtroom, a young woman who had never faced a consequence learned something that no fine or jail time could have taught her. That the people we dismiss, the people we see as obstacles, the people we call pathetic, they carry stories we know nothing about. They carry sacrifices we can't imagine. They carry losses that would break most of us. Billy Crawford lost his legs for his country. He lost his daughter while defending strangers overseas. He lost his wife to grief that was too heavy to share. And when a young woman slapped him in a parking lot and called him pathetic, he responded with the only thing he had left: grace. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing a human being can do. Like this video if you missed Judge Caprio, and tell us in the comments, what would you have done in his place? This is a dramatization created for storytelling and educational purposes.